there was a whole bunch of issues with Black Panther when it released initially in 2018, as far as like this quote unquote white guilt that honestly, it's one of those things that white people do to themselves because they feel like they got that savior complex as well as that guilt tripping themselves up complex too of like something as stupid as we'll buy tickets, but we won't go to see the movie because we just want to support without, showing our faces and rubbing into the faces of the black audience, primarily assuming it would just be black people going out to run and watch Black Panther, when surprisingly, I think it was mostly just of any race, creed, color, him, her, them, it, going to see Black Panther because I guess it was the least expected of all the Marvel characters, rest in peace Stan Lee, to come to the big screen, let alone get that much significance, that much importance thrown on it. And to be as successful as it became too, because directed by Ryan Coogler, also co-starring Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger in it too. That was a real special treat to get with this film too. Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, the 1-2 punch, no pun intended, because he's the star of the Creed franchise too now. The 1-2 combo per se of great actor in Michael B. Jordan portraying the villain in this film, as well as Ryan Coogler, a young upcoming director, younger than me even, so I'm surprised and pleased about that, but also with a broad enough eye to bring something as I would think special and or coveted even by Stan Lee, even by old school, back in the day from back when Marvel fans, to bring something like Black Panther, as special and as coveted as it is, to the big screen and not have it flop. But basically, they're the only place on earth where you can find vibranium, excuse me. And he becomes the protector. Well, not T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman. There's like a whole line of Black Panthers that, reigned and defended the nation before him. And he came along and had to do his part because his dad before him got blown to bits at the United Nations at the hand of the one human, one other hand, like robotic, the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, in other words, blew into bits, even though he was under mind control. That was back in Civil War, Captain America Civil War. And that's where we got our first intro to Black Panther. But Black Panther is basically the defender of Wakanda. He dresses up in this really cool, figure hugging, but really cool looking ass Black Panther cat suit. So he's like Cat Man, in other words. If like the white man or the colonizer really try to downplay him, they would have just said, oh, just switch the B to a C and you got Catman and this guy right here, but really he's Black Panther, which makes him a whole lot cooler. We'll try to compare the similarities between, I guess, Black Panther and Batman too later on also. But Black Panther's basically the defender. He dresses up in the suit, which can absorb kinetic energy. He's got superhuman strength, speed, prowess, all this special shit when he devours his like heart-shaped herb that gives him all the powers of the Black Panther to defend the nation and, of course, go off and fight crime. He's not emotionally damaged. He was raised by both parents in the kingdom, prince of a whole entire nation. So really, if anything, he was having third world problems as they keep deeming Wakanda to be a third world country because the colonizers, the white man, they don't know about the exclusivity of Wakanda's access to vibranium that they have there. Knee deep in it, practically. Waist deep, there's so much around them. And they just keep harboring the shit and they just keep making all this shit about vibranium. Oh, I got it right this time, thank God. and being a rich, prosperous, that's not the word, becoming a rich, very well-to-do nation, thanks to their source material, which is vibranium. And it becomes a whole thing where, the bad guys involved. This guy was born outside of Wakanda, but he's of Wakandian blood, Killmonger, because, one of the brothers of, was it the brother? Yeah, I think the brother of T'Challa's dad had stepped out on the royal, family bloodline and had a child, Killmonger in this case, with a regular civilian from the States back in the 90s, because, who believed in condoms up until the 1990s, basically. He's born, so he is Wakandian as well, this Killmonger guy. But he wants revenge because, basically he taps into Wakanda. He finds out about it, finally gets there too, and makes it clear that you abandoned us in our time of need and despair, referring to other African Americans and or black community outside of Wakanda, and you got access to all this material, which if you harbored it all together, you could take over the world potentially and become a world superpower. Why not do that? So he's like the evil Black Panther because they challenged for the title of Black Panther. He beats up T'Challa. He throws him off the side of a waterfall. Presumably he becomes the supreme reigning Black Panther. And all seems like it's going to shit, but then he comes back to life. He fights him off. It's a big battle at the end too, of course. And of course, being Black Panther, the hero in this case, he's not gonna die in like the second half of his first movie, his official debut on the scene. Even though his debut was the Civil War, his first like origin tale, and or hey, you met Black Panther already, but do you really know him? So no, he is 2018's Black Panther, starring again Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, as well as Michael B. Jordan, and directed by Ryan Coogler. Again, no disrespect to the rest of the cast. I'm just really bad with names to remember them enough in real life. Don't even bother asking me about cast and or made up names of a movie, Betty had said. But yeah, let's jump into what the fuck makes Black Panther so special. From 5 years ago, 5 whole years ago, there's been, all these movies since from the MCU, DCEU, everybody's jumping on the special effects bandwagon because everything is green screen, everything's, shot here in Georgia, but, we're pretending to be out in Romania kind of thing too. It's not like I'm opposed to it, but, once they started to discover the cheap tactics of using special effects to replicate being somewhere imaginary, for real, but just can't afford to be out there too, it's been going overboard. Now, we are at the point in time now, 2023, where a lot of it does look convincing enough where we can look and see, hey, you know what, quick glance, whatever. Oh, shit, I'm really in Transylvania, looking up Dracula's asshole or something like that. But we're not really, obviously. But a lot of them do rely on it. And you know what? If you're up to a certain budget and or you're doing a movie for like Tubi or something like that, I wouldn't assume immediately that they have the greatest budget for green screen and special effects. God bless them. They still try to pull it off, but bless their hearts for trying hard, but not hard enough. At least to ask for more money to make it more convincing. Because a lot of the shit they present on Tubi is some really bad looking shit. And Tubi's one of those services, a free like TV movie app. You pay absolutely nothing to watch it. You just gotta watch some commercials in between, a film. Like if a thing is like 2 hours long, you gotta watch like 5 commercials in between at the expense of having it be free completely. You don't even gotta sign up for shit, I think, if I remember correctly. But also, what you trade in for being able to freely view the app and its library it's a lot of bad movies, terrible movies, movies you never heard of, you never thought you'd see in your life again, or you were too drunk to remember you watched it, but then you remember, oh my God, this shit was terrible. Now I'm actually watching it again just because I'm curious. And yeah, Tubi, no offense to Tubi, of course, but yeah, there's a lot of bad shit on Tubi. Black Panther is too good to be on Tubi, and also Disney, Marvel, they would never let one of their properties like Black Panther join the likes of Tubi. No offense to Tubi again, but you know what I mean. So, back to Black Panther though, right? Alright, so getting back to special effects. From the opening, the way they unfold, they present the visual effects to you. It's really special because I'm sure that is also the heavy hand that was brought down and slapped the table in regards to Ryan Coogler, the director, saying, hey, we're going to make this, we're going to do this right, we're going to pay homage to Black Panther, which is one of the coolest, most underrated characters to this point in 2018 before the movie released from Marvel history. So why not do it right? And it is 2018 versus I read and I saw a video on there was supposed to be a 1990s version originally of Black Panther, starring of all people, funny enough, Wesley Snipes, which, besides not liking to pay his taxes, he couldn't avoid being front and center in any movie he was in. And also, funny enough, ended up doing another Marvel character in terms of Blade, the Blade trilogy from back when. We're getting a brand new reboot of Blade soon enough. I think, not the end of this year, 2023. I think they said 2024-ish, whatever. And I forget the name of the guy that's like already been named Blade, but it's not Wesley, obviously. The story goes that Wesley was going to be T'Challa, Black Panther, back in the mid-90s. I don't remember who was supposed to be the director, but I'm glad it didn't go through only because Black Panther back in the 90s compared to Black Panther 2018 would have never been given a fair chance to stand on his own too. Because besides the special effects back when being so terrible, not terrible because there is the case of like 1992, it's Terminator 2. Great looking for the time. And while not all the special effects from Terminator 2 hold up compared to nowadays, it was still a good looking movie and very convincing for what they had at their disposal technology wise to give you in special effects terms. But I really doubt Marvel was in a position to negotiate the big fucking bag that James Cameron got for Terminator 2 and its graphics special effects budget versus what Marvel had at its disposal with, let's say, 1991, 1992 version of Black Panther with Wesley Snipes. Well, maybe having Wesley Snipes attached to the project would have maybe brought some more money and or budget to the film, but I still don't think enough to make a suit look convincing. It probably would have been like that bondage looking ass leather like Michelle Pfeiffer had on in whichever Batman movie she was in too. Because back then, the leather looked so rubbery on all these costumes. If you look at the Batman movies, it almost looked like latex. Guaranteed there was a lot of chafing in the costume, whoever was wearing the shit. And also, they were probably squeaking as loud as like SpongeBob boots were. So imagine Black Panther getting disrespected the whole time, even though it's Wesley Snipes and he's cool as fuck back then, sitting on top of the movie, universe, as far as leading black actors are concerned in the 90s. Imagine the disrespect of having Wesley jumping and flipping and roundhouse kicking all over the place as Black Panther, but then they got to worry about like taking out the audio, the squeaks all around in post production too. So that, as well, again, as the special effects, he would have been like harnessed to a string. He would have been like fake diving, fake kicking all over the place and looking like a fool, most likely, as Wesley Snipes individual would have been as Black Panther. I mean, that's also to go along with the fact that at that time, yeah, I think they still use the strings and all this, whatever, the yoink you all over the place too, to make it look like you're actually flying in or sidekicking somebody. But back then in the 90s, it still wasn't up to par as it is now with 2018 in regards to this version of Black Panther is concerned. So Wesley would have been getting flipped and turned on his head and just like back spinning and windmilling as Black Panther in a rubbery latex bondage S&M looking ass suit. Worse, even sounding suit, because it was going to be like cheap leather to fucking make up the image, the appeal of Black Panther. Squeak, squeak, squeak as he fucking throws every blow possible, looking like a fool, and backflipping, which takes like 1-2 cuts to make the scene convincing, but then it's not even really him backflipping. I think back then, Wesley could have easily pulled off a backflip, but they were probably going to, get a body double to do it just because they didn't want to risk like having to have Wesley land on his neck, trying to beat Black Panther out here in these, 1990 streets or the streets of Wakanda. Wakanda also, had it been done back in the 90s, would have probably been depicted somehow, some way as a ghetto. There would have been like graffiti involved. There would have been like, a breakdancing scene, somebody just like spinning endlessly on their back on a cardboard box in the streets of Wakanda, when that's what Wakanda ain't about. Or, on a cardboard spinning on the back on top of dirt or something like that. Also, there probably would have been no director beside Spike Lee, most likely, that could have done any sort of justice properly to Black Panther in the 90s. So that was completely out of the question. So I guess it was kind of written in the stars, just like the lead song from 2018's Black Panther, Kendrick and SZA, All the Stars. Written in the stars for it to be left to sit and wait until 2018 to be done by the magic hands of Ryan Coogler and the rest of the cast, which everybody does a phenomenal job too, as well as film. So best it was left alone. Thank God. Because if you want further proof of what Marvel was doing wrong in the 1990s, all you got to do is, if you really want to, is go and check out, I believe, 1990 or 1991's The Punisher, starring Dolph Lundgren, which is absolutely horrible. Dolph Lundgren is okay, The only thing they did with him was they dyed his hair black, jet black, which doesn't look convincing as either. He didn't even grow his hair out, which, Frank Castle, or Frank Castiglione, as he's probably referred to as the Punisher, had some long hair, a good head of hair, which I can't relate to. And he's way too big as is. I think he's like a legit 6'4", 6'5". So he's big, lanky, scrawny looking almost. 1990, he's still young and holding up, fresh from fucking Rocky IV as the, what's his name? What's his name in Rocky IV? Fuck. Drago, right? So he's flipping and diving, looking like he was like if you ever seen Seinfeld, that statue that Kramer made of Jerry, Fusilli Jerry, or he looks like Gumby, just like getting folded up and it's not good. There's a lot of ninjas involved. They make him look like a fool. So thank God Netflix, grabbed the ball and ran with it as far as the Netflix version of the Punisher series. That's the only time they got the Punisher right with that. So shout outs to what's his fucking name, John Bernthal. What's his name? I forget. I don't even know how to say his name. He's like in a new series now, I think on Amazon Prime, which is doing real good. So good for him. Also, you got to give credit to the fact that the movie does commit to continuity as far as something as simple as this. Shout out to Forrest Whitaker. I think it's obvious he's a good actor, well respected, highly coveted and such too. No disrespect with the following I'm going to say, but obviously there's no way to not try to make eye contact with one good eye he has because he has another lazy eye, like kind of roaming these streets freely like that, right? The fact that the movie commits to Forrest Whitaker's, is it Whitaker's or Whitaker's? I don't know. Forrest Whitaker's lazy eye, going so far as to cast the younger version of him from the 90s out in LA. The guy playing him also has a lazy eye. Now, I don't know if that's like, props that they use on his eye to make it look like Whitaker's, or if it's another case of really good looking, convincing ass special effects. But the younger version of Forrest Whitaker's character matches up even in as minimal as a detail as a lazy eye is concerned, IRL in real life that he has, to Forrest Whitaker's character when he does his thing in Black Panther also. The uncle, I think, of T'Challa, right? So that was cool. That's good. I love that a movie does that. That is something that could be, an oversight. But they had enough respect to the character and primarily to the actor playing a character in the film to keep that in mind and keep the lazy eye in mind, because, that's... Then you wonder, where's his backstory to justify him having a lazy eye all grown up versus that he's younger, he can look straight ahead at you with both eyes convincingly too. There is that. There's also something about this film that makes it, I think it became the norm. I think this is the one that made it the norm to make all the Marvel comic book films 2 hours and plus, because this is 2 hours and 18 minutes in total. Usually I got a problem with that because I'm not a fan of movies being way longer than they need to be for the sake of just having some filler. I don't know how it's appeasing anybody to be there for like more than 2 hours for a film. It's got to be really good. It's got to be really like keep you in your seat. You don't even want to go to the bathroom. Like the shit that what's his name, James Cameron was pulling now with Avatar 2. That was at least 3.5 hours, mind you, that film. Which is, if it came from anybody else, it's disrespectful. And also, it's like, there's no consideration of no one else's time making something 3.5 hours. Like, laundry for me alone is like 2 hours every weekend I gotta do it. That's like, I gotta close out my time frame as far as I gotta set aside these 2 hours just to do laundry. That's a given. When you add an hour and a half more to what I already set aside for, let's say, laundry, that's like a bitch to have to handle. Referring to Avatar 2, of course, that's the issue. But in this case, at least it's like just over 2 hours. Again, 2 hours and 18 to be exact, right? The one big mistake they made in comparison with Wakanda Forever, the sequel that just came out a couple of months ago to Black Panther from 2018, is that they went for just under 3 hours because I guess they saw, well, you know what? They really loved Black Panther. It's in memory of Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. The story, the effects look really good, and Ryan Coogler is still involved, even though he didn't direct the second one. And we're introducing a brand new villain, and it's someone that's, even though he's the villain, or the counterpart to Black Panther in this case, someone that the MCU's been waiting a long ass time to see on the big screen. Oh, it's easy. We got him in the palm of our fucking hands, these fucking schmucks, the viewing audience. Yeah, let's go ahead and make it fucking, just under 3 hours. I didn't do a review for Wakanda Forever, but I did like it. Not more than the original Black Panther. It has its parts. It is, good overall, but way too fucking long. Which in this case, this film, Black Panther, gets it right. It's just enough throughout the film to make you not realize you've been there for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Sorry, 2 hours and 18 minutes in total, including end scene and post-credit, bonus, whatever they do, whatever they call that shit. There's two of them, by the way. There's a mid-credit and there's a end-credit one. They got it right with this one. The movie is all over the place. It makes you feel good. It makes you, if you got family like that, it makes you appreciate your family. There's good action. It's one of the less quippy Marvel films, meaning, how Marvel at some point just convinced itself that it had to be funny at certain points to kind of break the tension in the room or not be so somber, depressive, which a lot of them could end up being like that. This one got it right. And I think, again, that's thanks to Ryan Coogler being involved, because he made sure that it's funny when it needs to be funny or it makes sense to be funny. Not like, serious tone, dramatic take, villain wins again, and then there's a joke stuck in there just because, oh, you know what? Keep kind of like keeping a beat. 1, 2, 3, 4 at the fours, there's going to be a joke. No. Insert the joke when it makes sense. There's a lot of cute, funny moments here too when it comes, and they're all very welcomed. So they're all done well. I appreciate that always in a movie, to know when to place position at the right fucking point in times every time. So that is a good advantage it has. And also it's one of those rare films, again, where it's like 2 hours, but you don't feel the 2 hours. You almost feel like, oh shit, that was like 2 hours, huh? When you look at it after the fact too. The music throughout the film is really good too. I forget the name of the guy that was the composer assigned for the movie score throughout. Oh, it's that really long ass, like, I forget that. It starts with a L, the first name, Ludwig, I think, and then the last name is a G something. He's done a lot of stuff throughout different films, so kudos to that. But the one thing missing from Wakanda Forever also, in comparison to Black Panther, is that one key song like Kendrick and SZA did, or they had, better yet said, with All the Stars, which, the running joke with that shit was, and every time you listen to it back, even after you find out or confirm, she wasn't saying all the stars are kosher, she's saying all the stars above you, but because SZA's so caught up in the moment of, this is a movie soundtrack leading song, I'm on here with Kendrick, this is going to be heard and played around the world, and I'm going to be finally in the MCU unofficially, SZA, fine as fuck as she is, oh, you know what, I wouldn't mind SZA being Storm, actually. I know we're trying to make it, who was it they were talking about wanting to be Storm in the MCU? Well, Halle Berry was already Storm in the on again, off again, terrible, good, not so bad X-Men. Was it 4 or 3? Was it 4 or 3 movies? I forget. Whatever. But she was already Storm, and she was fine as fuck, even as terrible as those movies ended up being, all the X-Men. But, I think there was talks about Rihanna potentially being Storm. Not for real, but like, fan fiction, fantasy, like, fantasy picking the roles of who could play what. Rihanna would be a good one. Or if you're deep into wrestling like that, like I'm not, but I still, my Twitter and my fucking Instagram algorithm still feed me wrestling stuff. Jade Cargill could be an excellent Storm. She's fine as fuck. She's built, she's jacked, but still, besides being more muscular, more cut and vascular than I'll ever be in my life, she's still a beautiful woman. She could absolutely be Storm, and very convincing of it too, because I think she's almost legit 6 feet anyway, so throwing that out there if need be. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the sore point missing from Wakanda Forever was what this movie had leaps and bounds ahead of it, which was an excellent soundtrack, a great movie score throughout also, but again, that just one song that carries the film too, at the very end, of course, and the leading single, again, Kendrick and SZA, All the Stars I think it's just called All the Stars because again, the running joke was she said all the stars were kosher, all the stars were Jewish, pretty much, right? Wakanda Forever don't have that, or they tried to make that happen, but they relied heavily on who's not supposed to be ever to be trusted as the leading singer or the leading vocalist on anything, even in the shower, let alone, which is Rihanna. With I don't even want to remember because I don't remember right now, to be honest, but I don't even want to recall or try to remember the name of the song she had. That was the leading title track for fucking Wakanda Forever. Rihanna is great to look at with the sound off. That's when I'll watch her gladly sing any and every time. But besides that, I'm sorry, great production. She's had the fortune of having great songwriters too collab with her, but when it comes to her singing, I'm sorry, she's a fucking fail every time. So shout outs to her for getting the Super Bowl spot. But then again, if J-Lo got it, if Shakira got it, it's been building up to her and The Weeknd too before then. But The Weeknd was cool at least because I'm not going to say he's the greatest singer, but he's got like a catchy enough voice. So why not do it with him? But if Rihanna's getting a halftime show at the Super Bowl, which is oddly enough today later on, you know, bless her heart, but also another time I'm going to be watching with the sound off, and I'm going to put the sound back on when it's time to watch the commercials. I'm sorry, this is what it is. Also, the great thing about the movie is that you get a boss who's like fully fleshed out. Pause. Because you get Michael B. Jordan. You get the lead-in like underboss, which is the Claw guy. I forget his name. I don't know in real life. I just know he's a good actor. But you get Claw, who's like the underling boss, to Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan, who's the main boss. But the main boss is like, I don't know. How do I explain it? It's like a very fleshed out, well-developed backstory, well told enough. You get enough of it, not all of it, but enough to understand where he comes from, why he's so upset, and why he's demanding to pretty much see the manager when he meets up with the higher ups at Wakanda, when he busts in and makes his way through. Hi, Auntie. You remember that line, right? So it's like his anger, his displeasure with how Wakanda exists within itself, by willingly not wanting to help out anyone outside of Wakanda that looks just like them pretty much, is justified. But also he wants to take it overboard by pretty much harnessing all their weapons and technology and taking over the world like a dictator would. So there is the balancing act of, I see where he's coming from, but I also see where this can lead to if he's not stopped. Therefore, of course, henceforth, Black Panther, T'Challa is the one that had to stop him, because then if he's left in supreme control of Wakanda, you know, the whole world's going to war, you know, Wakanda could be blown to bits potentially, but then again, they got the vibranium, so maybe they're at the undisclosed advantage versus the rest of the world in comparison. Oh shit, I love that because it's not just a villain just because, hey, Michael B. Jordan's the flavor of the month. He's in Creed. He's been doing this stuff. You know, women can't keep their hands and or eyes off him, so let's just throw him in there for good measure. No. Ryan Coogler gave him a lot to fucking do. I believe even something as simple as his armor that he was wearing at some point was him, Michael B. Jordan, paying homage to Dragon Ball Z, his favorite character, Vegeta. So the armor and the hair too, which his hair looked awesome. Like, it makes me wish I had hair. I did have hair back in 2018, but it wasn't good looking hair. It was like the bald spot at the back of my head was creeping in, settling in already. The front of my hair wasn't so bad yet, but it was getting to the point where I had to spend like 20, 30 minutes alone in the mirror on my hair every morning before going into work, just to have that one draft of wind coming from any direction and just fuck it all up for me. So there is that to consider. But yeah, he's excellent throughout the film too. He's a very strong counterpart to Chadwick Boseman throughout the film. Again, so many layers to the character. You understand his struggle. Now, well, he has struggle because he's raised on the other side of the world without the help or assistance of Wakanda at all, even though he's one of them basically. Without their assistance, you understand his struggle. You see where he's coming from. You understand his point of view to an extent. You also kind of feel bad for him for how he ends up, you know, dying at the end. You know, spoilers. You had 5 years to watch it, so spoilers just in case regardless. But you also get to see like the inner workings of his mind. It's not that he's just a bad guy. It's just he came from the wrong side of the tracks. He didn't have a choice. He didn't know there was a whole nother world waiting for him had he been taken to where he's actually from, at least his father was from, or where his dad promised to take him to see, the best, most beautiful sunsets on the planet too, Wakanda. But then when he finally gets to see the most beautiful sunset on the planet in Wakanda while he's dying with like a dagger sticking out fucking mid torso, it's justifiable because he's dying, but T'Challa offers to, cure him, keep him alive with the end goal of him being imprisoned. But he's like, why would you rescue me? Why would you save me? Just so you can keep me as your prisoner, as your slave pretty much too? No. Since I'm already dying, as you can see right now with half this dagger sticking out my torso, my finely chiseled abs, my 10-pack, just take it out me. And I'd rather go out like my ancestors who jumped off the slave ships versus having to live shackled and bond to being your slave, your prisoner pretty much too. Which commendable. And really like touching, at the end when he's pretty much written off and it's the end of the movie at that point with him dying. I do also love in comparison also to T'Challa the whole time where he's just not presented as one-dimensional, being the guy that's just, upholding justice the whole time. He's blinded by it so much where he's pretty much like Black Batman, I guess you could say, without the abandonment issues, without being an orphan, of course, raised by both parents, T'Challa, in the kingdom as a prince. So imagine the access he had to pussy, ready to serve him, just like on that coming to America shit when, you had the royal penis scrubbers, I guess. But, I'm guessing T'Challa was a much more humble individual. He was more worried about, being fair and being raised properly by his parents so he wouldn't have to worry about, hey, make sure you reach underneath the royal foreskin, please, because big black cocks, we need maintenance too. Even though we're big as elephant trunks, please make sure every centimeter of the royal penis is scrubbed down properly. I don't know, but I'm just saying. But again, I do like that T'Challa is layered. There's so many sides to him. As soon as he discovers things along the path of becoming king, reigning of Wakanda and the new Black Panther, it's great to see that as he discovers things about his past and or specifically his father, more specifically that they practically left Killmonger as a child on the other side of the world to kind of fend for himself and struggle, he hates it. He hates that his idea, his image of his father in his mind was built off of lies that, the father found convenient to tell to everybody pretty much around him. He wants to break it down because that's why all the scenes where he goes to the ancestral plane is really moving shit. It's really deep. And I love that you get a hero, the villain and the hero. You get more to them than just, hey, he's good because we say so according to the movie, and he's bad because we say so, and then watch him do one or two bad things like jaywalking and or, cutting off grandma at the red light pretty much, so he's established as the villain. No. We both get deep into their psyches and understand why each of them stand on opposing ends as they do. Good versus bad, whatever. But T'Challa too, again, I love that he starts to question things. He's not there just kind of taking it as it is, or he's not just, we got to save Wakanda. Okay, we're saving Wakanda. No, like, he wants to keep Wakanda safe, but keep it away from the rest of the world because he fears that their technology could be turned into weaponry and the world wouldn't understand them. But also when he discovers that his dad had abandoned a child that was not his, but his brother's at least, then he starts to think, oh man, this whole time of me thinking keeping Wakanda away from the rest of the world is actually doing more damage than good. So now I see the light. I gotta make Wakanda accessible to all so we can all share in the wealth and eat cake pretty much. So that's great to see the whole time. He's not hesitant. He's not hellbound on being just, goody two shoes. He learns to adapt to everything that comes his way pretty much. And at the end of the day, he wants to save Killmonger. He wants to save his enemy. He pretty much got the upper hand on him. He could have killed him. He could have just grabbed the knife, twisted him more, broke it off in him, and just like kick him off a cliff. No, he fucking did him a solid after he heard him say, my dad promised me to take me to Wakanda to see the most beautiful sunsets on the planet. He drags him out there to fucking do it and let him see the sunset. Ideally, of course, thinking we're going to fix you up, we're going to patch you up, you're going to get cured, and we're going to take you to prison. but at least he tried to offer him that too. Because that reminds me too of Civil War, where he debuted, Captain America Civil War. He was so hell-bent on catching, I forget his name, Z something. He catches up with him at the end, but he realizes he's just a really fucking messed up in the head kind of guy. That he's like, you know what? Me killing you would bring some sort of satisfaction, but it will weigh down so heavily on my soul for the rest of my life that there's no point in me killing you. We just got to take you to prison and see if you can be fixed. Because, you know, you're messed up, bro, pretty much. So you got to admire that. And also, overall, the movie's a fun time, basically. It's like, how do you not enjoy this shit for like 2 hours and 18 minutes, for what it is? It's a really well told hero origin tale, even though we don't really delve deep into like, you know, him coming up as a young prince, maybe seeing an early image of the Black Panthers before him. I don't think it was necessary. I mean, there's enough to it already with the movie being, again, over 2 hours that we got enough. We got the gist of it. And also you got to appreciate the fact that Ryan Coogler and the writers, I'm sure included, of course, decided to delve deep into both characters, the good guy and the bad guy, flesh them out, make you feel for both of them, connect to both, and be like, shit, I miss the bad guy. I feel bad for him the way he's going out, but also the good guy in this case was right to do so. And he's got a big enough heart, literally, to be like, you know what, bad guy? I get why you did the stuff you did. You said the stuff you said as well, too. But let me at least give you this. Let me offer you a way out. Let me rehab you. Let me fix you. Let our people fix you here. Stay with us. We got to imprison you, too, by the way. But also, we just don't want you out there running crazy, you know, posing a bigger threat than you are to others just because we got to keep hunting you down and keep playing this, like, rat and mouse game. I mean, cat and mouse game the whole time for the rest of our lives. You got to admire that, too. But also, no. Now, that's pretty much it, though. I mean, the whole film is fun. I strongly recommend it. I really enjoy it. If I had to rank it in my top 5, I'd say even 3 MCU films, not including the Sony shit, not including anything else before the Disney, Marvel, whatever. I'd say it's in my top 3, because I go Infinity War, I go Civil War, and then I go Black Panther. So I'll stand by that. I'll die on that hill. It's a very close 1, 2, and 3, mind you, but that's pretty much where I stand with all 3 of those, and that's where I put Black Panther. That's it for today, though. If I got to give it a final score, Black Panther, I got to give it a strong, solid 2 out of 2. It's really fun. You don't feel the 2 hours that pass you by. All the characters get their appropriate amount of time to find out more about them, understand them better, appreciate them, laugh with them, cry with them, too. You know, questioning life, questioning royalty. Are my powers really for good? Or, you know, is this based off of a throne of lies because, you know, my dad did this and my dad's brother did that. And we've abandoned like a whole community of people that look just like us. We've left them to their luck because we were too selfish about harnessing our own shit, thinking we were doing the right thing, but we were really doing the wrong thing. It's a lot deeper than it should be, considering it's a superhero film of all things. But also, thank God, this was made in 2018 instead of 1991, 2, 3, 4, 5 with Wesley Snipes, which could have been cool. I mean, he was already built and jacked enough to like convincingly pull off a Black Panther, you know, whole cat suit, whatever. But it would have really looked bad. It would have sounded bad, like I was saying earlier, with like a squeaky ass leather Catman suit, which would have really been just meme material 30 years down the road. And Wesley Snipes would have had another excuse to not pay his taxes because they would have paid him way too much. And he just would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for us meddling kids, aka the government, Uncle Sam. Always looking out for your taxes and always counting your fucking funds. Especially now, since you can't run, you can't hide anywhere. With technology and your fucking, you know, I'm sure you get it like me. Your email has been found on the dark web all this time. Change your passwords on like 373 fucking sites. Who's got time for that shit? But I always got time. 2 hours and 18 minutes left for fucking Black Panther as always.
Yo, it's over. Alright, it's over. It's over. Move the mic. Move the mic.
Thank you.
Alright.